Hello, you're listening to Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, a weekly podcast designed to bring you snippets of encouragement to help you as you go about your day. I'm Jenny Guy, your host. God sees the act of waiting as active rather than passive. And because He takes that approach to those times in life when we aren't in control, when we are forced to wait, if we let Him, He will use those periods for our good. In today's episode, we'll look at waiting from God's point of view. Let's get started. I don't like to wait. But no matter how much I don't like it, I accept that waiting is part of life. Everywhere we turn, there is an opportunity to wait. We wait in restaurants and in airport security check lines. We wait while traffic jams are cleared. We wait for promotions and vacations. We wait for children to be born. We wait while loved ones battle through terminal illnesses. Sometimes waiting means giving up control, hopefully temporarily, to someone or something else. Giving up control is hard, and because it is difficult to surrender our ability to direct or at least influence our futures, it can feel like our livelihoods or even our very lives are being threatened just because we are no longer in control while we wait. I think waiting is also hard because our emotions often seize that opportunity to take charge. They push us to the heights of happiness or the depths of despair. They make us freeze up like a deer caught in headlights with fear and worry. The movies they run on the screens of our minds consume us, wearing us out with their intensity. It seems like just the mere act of waiting gives our emotions the green light to go ahead and do whatever they want to do, be it negative or positive. Distractions like cell phones and to-do lists can't always rescue us from waiting. Sometimes we have to pass the weeks and months by just carrying on with our daily responsibilities. Those are the times when waiting can wear us down. And if that waiting time is especially difficult or life-changing in any way, because of the problem or situation that is making us wait, then we may find ourselves giving out or giving up. What can we do to help ourselves through difficult waiting periods? I searched the Bible and found 2 verses that deal specifically with waiting. One is in Psalms and the other is in Isaiah. Psalm 27, verse 14 says, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and He shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord." Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." These verses suggest that God's concept of waiting is different from ours. He sees waiting as active rather than passive. God also sees our waiting times as interludes during which we can grow. And if we allow Him to develop us during those waiting times, we will emerge stronger and more resilient than when we entered them. Where did I get that suggestion? Well, it came from the words strengthen, mount up, run, and walk. All verbs, all action words. Here's my interpretation of what those verses are saying. First, as we wait, God will fortify our hearts, our innermost beings, by giving us the stamina, resilience, courage, and above all, faith in Him we need to stand and not collapse under the weight of our situations. Second, He will renew our physical strength. Often, a long waiting period saps us of energy, making it challenging for us to go on. Third, God will help us rise mentally and spiritually above our circumstances. Many times, changing perspective and rising up above our situations will enable us to see new possibilities and opportunities. Elevating our thoughts and our prayers can be the key to going through our waiting periods successfully. And fourth, by strengthening us inwardly and outwardly, God helps us to be productive and engaged in life during our waiting periods, rather than withdrawing and passively accepting whatever comes our way. We can walk when necessary and run when needed. Here are 4 well-known people from the Bible whose lives demonstrate what waiting on God can look like. Let's consider Abraham first. When Abraham was 75 years old, God told him that He would give him a son. Now, when God made the promise, it was highly unlikely even then that Abraham could father a child. Years passed, and Abraham still waited on the fulfillment of God's promise. What seemed improbable 25 years ago was impossible now. But God was true to His word. When Abraham was 100 years old, Isaac was born. While he waited on God, Abraham's physical strength was renewed. Then there's Daniel, who spent a night in a den filled with lions. That was probably a very long night. In fact, the king who condemned Daniel to that pit didn't sleep at all for worrying about Daniel's safety. While the king was worrying, Daniel was spending the night in complete peace and confidence in God. That situation had been designed to destroy Daniel, but he hadn't given in to fear because his heart, his ability to believe and have faith in God, had been strengthened. What about Joseph? He had a dream of future greatness when he was a young boy. But on the way to that greatness, Joseph encountered setback after setback. First, he was sold as a slave and put to work managing a wealthy Egyptian's household. Then he was falsely accused by the Egyptian's wife and unjustly imprisoned. Through each of those devastating circumstances, Joseph held fast to the dream God had given him. Joseph's story ends with his becoming second only to Pharaoh in ruling over Egypt. Each of the situations Joseph endured could have been enough to negatively alter his mindset permanently. Instead, because he waited on God, he was able to mount up with wings as eagles, spiritually and mentally, and not let his circumstances destroy him. Finally, there is David. Like Joseph, David had been given an early promise that didn't come to pass until he was well into adulthood. Anointed king of Israel when he was a youth, David didn't take the throne until he was 30. During his waiting period, he matured into a renowned warrior whose reputation and exploits we talk about today. he also grew in his knowledge of and relationship with God. David is our model for being strengthened both inwardly and outwardly during our waiting periods. What do these stories mean for us today? Consider the following scenarios. The chance that we will spend a night cooped up with lions is practically non-existent, but harsh circumstances on our jobs can make it feel like we're going into a lion's den every day when we go to work. That's when we need to follow Daniel's example of strengthening our hearts in God by believing in His ability to protect us. We may have cherished a dream from childhood of having a certain career, but years have gone by and it looks like life and its demands have ripped that dream from us. This is when Abraham steps up to remind us that with God, age ain't nothing but a number, for He is able to renew us physically. What if we have received a promise from God that we know was from Him, but it hasn't manifested yet? What do we do? Do we continue to believe God, or do we give up? No, absolutely not, David says. Keep preparing yourself and doing what you need to do to get ready to fully live in that promise when it finally shows up in your life. And what about when it seems like we're finally on the way to getting settled, when yet another situation arises that throws us back to square one and we have to start over? What do we do then? Joseph is the person we look to when that happens. He never gave up on God, even as his circumstances kept changing. His ability to spiritually and mentally rise above those circumstances and see God's hand on his life enabled him to master his situations rather than be mastered by them. There you have it, straight from the Scriptures. Promises and examples from God that if we will wait on Him, then He will sustain, strengthen, grow, and develop us during our waiting periods. I hope you heard something today that has encouraged you and possibly given you something new to think about that will motivate or inspire you. If you would like a PDF copy of the show notes for this episode of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, visit my website at jguypublisher.com. New episodes are published each week on Wednesday. I hope you'll join me for another installment of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today. Well, that's it for now. Until next time, be encouraged.